To celebrate the acquisition of the Kansas City Southern, the Canadian Pacific plucked their 1930 Hudson steam locomotive 2816 from storage and showed her off to the public along their new route all the way down to Mexico City from the headquarters in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We are going to skip all the history and head right into pictures and videos. The tour started in late April and continued all the way until early July. I decided to hit it on a few select portions. The first between St. Paul and Chicago on May 5th and 6th, 2024. We begin as 2816 follows the Amtrak Empire Builder, which uses this former Milwaukee Road main line down to Chicago as she departs the Twin Cities area at Hastings, Minnesota, where the line crosses the Mississippi. She follows the Mississippi down to La Crosse, where she crosses the river again and heads east through Wisconsin towards Milwaukee. After an overnight stop in Portage, Wisconsin, she continues to Chicago. We managed to catch her at two of my favorite spots, Rondout Tower and Duval Crossing in Des Plaines, Illinois. Duval is said to be the only place in the world where two railroads cross on a wooden highway overpass. On May 9th, she left the Chicago area and I caught her at Tower B17 leaving the Bensonville yard in a downpour. Watch as raindrops gather on the lens in this sequence. The next time on the tour for me was May 25th when she ran from Shreveport, Louisiana to Houston, Texas. I rarely take video, but I was approached by a friend working on a video of the trip and he didn't know of another gringo that wasn't afraid of Mexico. From experience, I found that trying to take stills and video simultaneously tends to result in poor outcomes for both, but I got a little smartphone tripod and agreed to set it up and let it go. Today was a practice run. Now on to the Mexico portion of the tour. She traveled from Monterrey to St. Louis Potosi on June 4th and continued to Mexico City on June 6th. I really didn't know what to expect chasing steam there. It's been decades since there was any in Mexico. My general procedure is to have some spots picked out and then see if I can catch some photos of places in between as well. I had high hopes for the first part of the trip as Monterrey is surrounded by spectacular mountains. This is what it looks like when the sun is out. She is scheduled to make a servicing stop at Rinconada, and I hope to use that as an opportunity to get ahead to Higueras. When I got to the usually sleepy little town, the place was mobbed and the crossing was blocked with traffic. CPKC guy told me they had decided not to service here because of the crowd. I couldn't get by, so I jumped out and grabbed a picture. The new service spot was to be Higueras, which looks like this. I beat her there, but the sun had come out and the lighting was all wrong, so I went straight to my next spot. Now it starts to get tricky. The roads venture away while the railroad goes direct. I get back to the tracks just in time to see the tail end and pursue, only to have the road do this. Luckily, she had to meet a freight which slowed her down and the road became paved again, letting me get enough ahead to grab this at a well-guarded grade crossing. Then got ahead of her before she got to the next service stop, Calgary, which had an interesting depot and water tank, but the sleepy town was so mobbed I decided to keep going. The next town is Wadley, which also has a similar depot. I have a few minutes to wait while she services at Calgary. It is raining at Estación de Enramada, so I crawl into a pipe. I am followed.
¿Dónde viene el tren, oiga?
¿Se habla inglés?
No.
No,
No, español.
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 Yo te he dicho que al pariente no creo que le dio mal.
2816 will spend the next 2 nights at San Luis Potosi, giving me a day to come up with a new plan. The let's see where I can catch her approach wasn't working. Driving in Mexico can be challenging. There are obstacles one would expect, like crazy traffic and animals. Then there are many speed bumps, some well marked, others that seem to come out of nowhere. Traffic control in urban areas at intersections can be hit or miss. Shoulder driving for slower traffic on 2-lane roads is common, allowing faster traffic to pass. You need to be always on the lookout for oncoming traffic in your lane. The plan is to catch her once between every service stop. I selected spots that I knew from past visits and others using satellite online maps. I set out the morning of June 4th ahead of her 6 a.m. departure and got breakfast at a roadside stand. I wanted to get her coming through this cut, but the sun didn't cooperate, so found another spot nearby. The next stop is the High Bridge at Tula. I was not expecting the mob here to actually be on the bridge. Up until now, I've avoided places with big crowds, mostly because I thought the traffic would be a mess trying to leave. But this spot in the suburbs of Mexico City will be my last. Nearly a month later, 2816 is back on former Milwaukee road rails between Kansas City and Davenport, Iowa on June 27th. And then finally I felt the need to catch her on her homeward stretch on her home rails between Winnipeg, Manitoba and Medicine Hat, Alberta on July 7th, 8th, and 9th. After 2816's early arrival into Brandon, I had time to drive up to the Canadian National High Bridge at Uno, Manitoba. Then to Verdon, Manitoba, where we continue the next morning. I absolutely love the quickly disappearing wooden grain elevators and made it my mission to get her going by as many as possible. Then with a final view at Maple Creek, Saskatchewan, it's a wrap from me in 2816 for 2024. Thanks for watching to the end. Likes, comments, and subscriptions will motivate me to make more of these.